Welcome to Dial It In, a podcast where we talk with fascinating people about marketing, sales, process improvements, and tricks that they use to grow their businesses. Join me, Dave Meyer, and Trygve Olsen of BusyWeb as we bring you interviews on how the best in their fields are dialing it in for their organizations. Let's ring up another episode.
Welcome back, everybody. It is season 4, episode 2. Dave's on a plane. We finished the first episode and then he immediately left town. So I'm by my lonesome today, but I'm pretty excited because I have an amazing guest who I've known for quite a long time and have all the respect in the world for. So as somebody whose job it is to sell, and as my job is to teach people how to use AI and to work on growth in their own companies, I've just been tortured by this idea lately of how do you get better at selling when the volume is so loud universally everywhere? And so that's why I'm happy as all get out to bring on our guest, my friend Mario Martinez. Mario is the founder and CEO of Ingreso, a globally recognized leader in digital sales training and AI-powered tools, including the FlyMSG.io productivity suite. With an extraordinary 105 consecutive quarters in B2B sales and leadership, Mario has helped generate hundreds of millions of dollars for clients worldwide. He is recognized among the top 10 most influential business leaders by Beyond Magazine. He's been featured in Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and Huffington Post, and appeared in Salesforce's award-winning documentary, The Story of Sales. He also hosts the Modern Selling podcast, which he has never invited me on, but he shares insights with top sales and marketing leaders around the country, has the coolest chair in the world, and is one of the best 7th grade basketball coaches you ever meet. And he has the unfortunate distinction of being my friend. Welcome, Mario.
Wow, that was a mouthful, Trygve.
Right?
Thanks so much, buddy, for having me. And thank you very much for the introduction. You actually made me a little younger than I really am. It's not 105, it's 108 now. It's
108.
108
Okay.
consecutive quarters in sales and marketing and leadership. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, basketball, that actually is now not just 7th grade, but we're doing age 10 through 19.
Wow.
So it has expanded, and we created our own little private league, and we've got every week that when we are doing it, which was February through May, we're actually gonna be doing it again here for the winter season coming up. We'll have anywhere between 40 to 100 kids that show up for basketball.
I actually talk about your son's basketball league all the time, especially when I'm talking to people who don't have a really large marketing budget. So what I tell them is you need to find a local kids basketball league, and you need to sponsor them, and then you need to live and die by that. And you post massive game updates like it's game 6 in the NBA finals, and it's intriguing and it's interesting and it's engaging, and it's going to see your logo everywhere. You should follow my friend Mario because he does it with his son, and it's awesome. And I genuinely log on to LinkedIn because I want to see if Mario's son's team won last night.
I love it. Funny as it may be, my best performing content is with my boys. I don't know what I'm going to do when they get old, because at some point they just stop being cute on the news feed and it's just another human.
My son used to have his own internet show too when he was 8 and 9. It was called Spicy Luigi, and he would eat spicy foods. And it was really literally, he just came up with the idea of Hot Ones, but for a kid.
Wow.
And he loved doing it, but we had to stop it because I own the domain spicyluigi.com. And then when there was the United Healthcare murder about a year and a half ago where the CEO of United Healthcare got murdered. The guy who murdered him, his name was Luigi. Apparently he was really good looking too. And my views on Spicy Luigi for my 9-year-old eating Tabasco shot up like 4,000%. So I just scuttled the whole thing. It was really depressing.
Oh, that was his YouTube money. That was his college fund right there. That
Right?
Destroyed.
Exactly. But it's amazing how these things get out, because apparently our first episode was done. He ate Tabasco for the first time. And apparently that actually made its way to the Tabasco company. And the CEO of Tabasco thought he was so cool that he sent a secure package, and he has his own Tabasco sauce that with a handwritten label on it that says Spicy Luigi. It's amazing how marketing with it, just being authentic and sharing information about your kids gets around and people think it's cool.
There you go. I like that story, and how cool that the CEO of Tabasco, which is it Tabasco Inc., or are they owned by somebody else?
It's the McElhaney Company out of Louisiana. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that, and they're proudly three ingredients. It's like vinegar, red pepper, and one other thing, and that's it. And it's still good, and they're not changing anything, and it's still awesome.
yeah, yeah. Love that story. At least your son has figured out that he can monetize people watching him and staring at him doing interesting or silly things. So some to
Exactly.
make more money.
I will. I will. So I brought you on because I think you're an amazing guy, and I think everybody needs to know more about Fly MSG. But I want to ask you just a simple, basic question to start with: is it just me, or is it harder to sell now than ever?
Wow, such a great question, Trygve. The answer to that question is it's harder than ever now to actually sell. And I like to think of the sales spectrum in two ways. First part is the pre-hello to the hello, and then the second part, the hello to the close.
Okay.
And I think the hardest part of selling right now is this pre-hello to the hello phase. That's what we call like the prospecting phase, the engagement phase, getting the attention of your buyer. So that's the pre-hello to hello. And when we go back to actually COVID, we actually did several research studies. If you look this up under the prospecting of Ingreso, you'll see this study that we did. It was done 4 times. And the last study we did had 1,295 respondents. And we gave them 4 options. What's the hardest part about selling? Is it getting the first appointment? Is it qualifying the opportunity? Was it getting to a proposal phase or closing the deal? And out of 1,295 respondents on the 4th research study with sales reps around the globe, 69% for the 4th time in a row, that study, 69% said the hardest part of the selling process was getting to the hello, the pre-hello to the hello phase, that right there.
Yep.
And so arguably we spend probably, I would say 30 to 40% of our time getting to hello, but it's 70% of the effort.
Yes.
Right. So thinking about that, why has that become so much more difficult? It's become so much more difficult, one, because of laws that have been enacted and invoked that are some in global in nature and some in the domestic US. Like, for example, California decided to do their own thing related to privacy, which is similar to GDPR that doesn't follow federal suit. So with that in mind, you have all these different organizations, entities, government systems that are actually putting on different requirements of what you're allowed to get information on and what you're allowed to do with that information. So that's the first part. I would argue, though, that probably is not the biggest thing that's holding us back. What I would argue actually is what has happened is because most of our buyers are still sitting in a remote first environment, meaning I work from home 3 days a week, I go in 2 days a week. Even if it's flip-flop, 2 days a week, I go in 3 days a week. Try calling them companies like LinkedIn, Clorox, any of the major Fortune 100s. Good luck in trying to talk to somebody that's actually a receptionist.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen. If you look at those dialers, even better luck trying to be able to get name recognition and get to an individual that you care about. So that's become increasingly difficult. So we've got that gate. Then we've got additional gates. You work from home. I work from home. Okay. So I don't have a desk phone that I'm sitting in front of that I can see the blinking lights lighting up every time it actually rings. No, what I have is my mobile phone. But on my mobile phone, as an example, I've got this feature that is set up from Apple that unless the caller is in my caller ID, goes straight to voicemail.
Okay.
Okay. So you will never, ever get me on a cold call. Never. It just won't happen. And as a direct result, I only listen to my voicemails about once a week. And for the most part, I start deleting those particular voicemails. So the data shows that pretty much out of every 100 calls that we make, we may speak to 2 to 3 people live.
I would think for you, especially because your business is sales training and making better salespeople, aren't all those cold callers essentially doing the prospecting for you and giving you, hey, let me call John back. Hey, let me tell you everything you did wrong, and here's how I can help you do it better.
So for Ingreso, our roots grew up only and exclusively on the pre-hello to the hello phase. So when we came to the market, you had Sandler, you had Miller Hyman, you had Value Selling Associates, the Rain Group, all kinds of other players, Medic, the Brooks Group. You had all these different organizations that were already doing training, but majority of them focused on the hello to the close. So you got a deal. How do you close that deal? Now that's important. It's very important. But if 70% of that time is spent on the pre-hello to the hello phase, then we've got to think about how do we effectively utilize the channels. I was talking about cold calling, and I was saying for every 100 calls, you may talk to 2 to 3 people. That doesn't mean you should stop doing a cold call. It just means that you need to recognize that you're going to do more to be able to get less, right? So now we start looking at how do we use the alternate channels. Okay, this morning I already deleted 77 emails.
Yep.
77 emails. And I don't recognize the name, so I just immediately delete. And those that continue on emailing me after I've said, leave me alone or unsubscribed, I mark them as spam now. So now I have this extra filter that we have marked this for marking as spam. And now we go on to LinkedIn. We've got a lot of folks that are on LinkedIn. Now everybody's connecting with everyone, and they're now sending randomized connection requests. And then they're doing in-mails, and then they're pitching. So they've taken their pitch from email to LinkedIn. And then now we add on video as an example. And video actually is quite unique. And I think it's the secret sauce right now. If you think about prospecting and we think about how to engage and what we teach people, one of the things that we see is that when you're cold calling, you're using one sense, the ears, auditory. When you're emailing, you're only using one sense, the eyes. When you're doing LinkedIn messaging or engagement, you're only using one sense, the eyes. But with video, you actually have the ability to be able to look. You have sight first, which is that cool looking Giphy. You have sight first, you have the coolness factor. And as soon as you click play, you've got 3 to 7 seconds. The majority of people actually watch. The data shows that majority of people will actually watch the first 3 to 15 seconds. So you've got 3 to 15 seconds. Some data shows 3 to 7 seconds to capture that person's attention. So if your video actually starts out with, hey, Trygve, hope you're doing fantastic. You just wasted 3.5 seconds for—
Thanks, bye.
Yeah, exactly. So what you need to be thinking about is how to use video that actually appeals to both auditory and visual senses right there. And how do you capture that person's attention? Leveraging that video. And think about this, Trig. You've got kids and I've got kids.
Yep.
Have you ever been walking down the street and you're holding your young child's hand, and you see something in the distance walking towards you, and you grab your son or daughter's hands a little bit tighter, or you move them to the other side without explanation? You just grab them and move them to the other side of your body because you know that person's coming on, say, on your left-hand side. Has that ever happened to you?
Many times.
Okay. What was the reason why you made that decision to grab your son's or daughter's hand a little tighter, or to get a little closer to your wife who has on the side of her purse, or to move your child from one side to the other? What is it that you saw that made you think that?
So my son 4 years ago got attacked and almost killed by a golden retriever. So if a dog is bigger than about 15 pounds, he's immediately afraid of it. So if we're walking, I'm going to always move him to the other side of him because he's going to have a fear response, and he needs to feel like I am. The dog's going to have to get through me
before it gets to him.
And I'll tell you a funny story, and I've never shared this on the podcast, and you have kids, so you'll appreciate this. Is a year to the day after his attack, we went to Disney World, and I paid an ocean of money, and we both had lightsabers made. And then afterwards at Disney World, they do this thing where all the really amazing spots in Disney World, they have photographers that are just sitting there, and they'll take professional photos of you, and then you get them for free. So we were in this kind of courtyard looking at the Millennium Falcon itself, the thing that I love more than anything else in the world, Millennium Falcon. And my son is holding his lightsaber, and there's a photographer taking a picture there, and we were up about 15 feet. And all these people from the courtyard below him started like coming to him, and I could see that they were all coming to him. And I had this one amazing moment as a father, that after him getting brutally attacked and almost killed, we lived through it. And all of this pain and all of this effort brought him where I brought him to the happiest place on earth in front of the fastest ship in the galaxy. And I had this moment of bliss and perfection. And I said that to the photographer, and she goes, yeah, that's not what's happening at all. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah, go down and go over and look. So I go over and look. And of course, here's my 7-year-old who's afraid of everything. And we both look over, both of us newly minted Jedi Knights. And we look over and there's Kylo Ren and 2 stormtroopers staring at us. And Kylo Ren points at us. And so now I know he's going to melt down. So I do the only thing that I think to do is I lip off to Kylo Ren. And I say, I shout in front of 200 people. I shout, I can't hear you with that thing on your face. Why don't you come up here and talk to me like a real man? And Kylo Ren goes from pointing at me, goes thumb up and starts walking up. So my son is now having the meltdown of all meltdowns. So I get down and I think of every Rocky speech in my entire life. And I park it in center field, Mario. It's the best inspirational speech I ever gave in my life, where I say, not here, not in this place. Father and son, we are going to look evil in the eye and say, not today. And he looked at me and he goes, okay, Dad. And so Kylo Ren and 2 stormtroopers walk up to us, and I flip my lightsaber on because I'm about ready. I'm not moving. This is the line in the sand. Right then, I feel this little forearm in my back, and my son starts screaming, no, take my dad instead.
I'm sorry that experience happened to your son.
Thank
Secondly, that's a great experience. He knew exactly who to sacrifice in order to save himself.
Take the big one. I'm too precious.
Love that story. So your point.
Anyway, back to your point. I'm avoiding danger.
You made my point, which is you saw something up ahead, and it was something that you didn't believe that was right. Trust. You looked. You made observations. And that's the same thing that we do when we're prospecting and we see something. And how do we make that judgment on a human? What we're looking for on a human is we're looking for the trust building factor, which is what we see in the face. And instantly, the brain forms an automatic opinion and thought of, do I trust or do I not trust, just by looking at someone's face. And what do we look at? The smile will actually send the brain the message that you can trust this individual. The individual who doesn't have the smile sends the brain the message, oh, be careful. Oh, be careful. And so we think about this and we look at, how do we get somebody to click on our video? As an example, you better be showing those pearly white teeth that when you send over that particular message. So with that in mind, prospecting has become so much more difficult. There's so much more noise. Our buyers are sitting behind electronic mediums, and they are protected and firewalled in many different ways, whether it be the Apple send it straight to voicemail, the spam filter, and you fill in the blank, right? And so that has become single-handedly the hardest thing. And this introduces concepts around, how do you actually slice through the noise? How do you use AI to be able to create authentic engagement? How do you do this at scale and speed? And how do you do this in an omni-channel approach, where Mario is not the voicemail guy? You'll never get me. Trust me, you will never get me unless you're in my address book. Okay. But I will actually engage through text messaging. I will actually engage through email. I will actually engage through LinkedIn. But you better warm me up. Don't just come at me and say you want to have a book an appointment. No, you need to actually have done some of your research. You need to actually have said something that actually says, okay. In fact, some sellers have actually started downloading Fly Message, utilizing it, and then sending me messages saying, hey, I'm a Fly Message customer. After using the product, I thought about, and so what I do is I go to their email, I look inside of our CRM, and I look to see if they actually use the product. If they didn't use the product, I write back to them, right, bold and center. Thanks for downloading, but you actually didn't use it. So therefore, you can't claim that you actually use the product and use that as an introduction method. Not going to happen. Redo, go actually use the product, and then come back and talk to me as if you're authentic and real. Those that actually do it, I say, thanks so much for being a customer. Love that. Hopefully you're using this feature, that feature, and this feature as a salesperson or BDR or fill in the blank. I'm interested. Let's schedule a meeting. Or I'm not interested, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you 30 minutes of my time since you did a great job, and I'll actually do some private onboarding. And we've got 25,000 users to Fly Message. You called it Fly MSG. MSG is short for message, so Fly Message. I'll actually give you 30 minutes of my time to help you get the most of it, but I'm not your target prospect, right? So whether they take the appointment or not is up to them, but at least identify them to be able to help them see that they did the right thing and how to engage. And so those are the things that we need to start thinking about. And those are the things that definitely AI brings to the table to be able to help make prospecting easier. Now, once you get into the hello phase, yeah, there's a lot of tools that are out there that can help increase your speed to delivery. What doesn't change is people to people engagement. What doesn't change is being real, human, authentic, and building trust. What doesn't change is, did I solve a business problem? And can I give an outcome that the company is looking for? What doesn't change is, do they have budget? What doesn't change is, is there actually a committee that is responsible for purchasing this particular product? And so those are all the things that still require human intervention that AI can't help you with, except with providing you leading questions or checkboxes or things that you're supposed to uncover. And I think that's really the next wave on the hello to close phase. Is it needs to become smarter. There's all these cool tools out there that record your calls and then actually provide you feedback on how you performed.
Yep.
I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for is, I want to know, did I, as a sales rep, go through all of the questions that I should have asked? And what is it that I don't know still at this point? And that gets served up as, on the next call, it gets served up to me directly into Zoom, directly into Google Meet, directly into your video conferencing platform of choice, or my printout when I go face to face to meet with that individual. What don't I know, and what do I still need to know? For example, on a first call, you may not have discovered whether or not there's actually a budget line item for this, or the expected time frame of when they're looking to solve this particular problem. And in those cases, you want to walk in prepared for the next meeting. And quite frankly, I don't see the platforms like Otter and some Fathom and some of these other tools that have actually taken it to that level. That's what I need to know. All the basics. AI scopes it and combs through it, gets me the answers, serves it up at the top of my note-taking inside my CRM, and then identifies the areas that I still need to identify, and then puts it all into my blue sheet, my yellow sheets, my white sheets, whatever methodology I might be using to be able to fill in the blanks.
You bring up a really interesting point, because it is an inevitable part of the sales conversation, which is, what is your expectations for how much is this going to cost? And what is your expectation for when this is going to get done? And almost universally, that gets back to the original point of trust. And so when you ask that question, you can ask it any number of ways. There's dozens of ways to tiptoe around budget, but universally somebody's going to lie to you. And they're going to say, because they are going to want to pay the least amount of money and have it done as fast as humanly possible, because that's their sphere of understanding, is they need the problem done and they don't want to spend a lot of money on it. So then you get into that trust factor of saying, okay, if you ask them the question, they're going to lie to you. Just work past that and understand that they're not going to tell you the truth. Your job is to then set the expectation to say, when you circle back to money, to say, okay, now that we understand how badly you need this and how screwed you are if we don't do this, and how we can get this done in 2 weeks, and then the price almost becomes inevitable. But you got to take that trip with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think the key here is, when we are thinking about how to engage with our buyer, when we're thinking about how to solicit a response and then how to drive a deal down the road, we need to be thinking about, how am I building trust throughout this entire process, from the very first hello all the way through, thank you for signing the contract. And this requires us to not be using tactics that are false and misleading. I get these all the time. Hey, Mario, I love what you did on the podcast with Jane Smith. Great show. And it has the title of the topic inserted inside there. Now, the reason why I'm reaching out is, no, AI is smart enough to be able to find some of that data and personalize it, but actually, is it smart enough to listen to the show and actually take a snippet? You know what I love most, Mario, about this particular show is, at 22 minutes and 2 seconds, you started talking about, it very much hit home, because da 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 da. Now, it'd be, even if AI could do that, at least it'll get me to say,
Oh, okay. You heard that.
did they actually listen?
Yeah.
Now I'm interested and I'm engaged. That's just one example. What if you don't have anything to be able to engage with an individual? Maybe there's no points of presence at all that you can pull in that type of data. Now you're using industry data. Now you're actually gleaning content based upon the industry very specifically. And you're focused from an industry perspective on how to go about utilizing the industry trends and problems to that particular buyer persona that you're going after. That's one. The other thing too is one of the big problems that we discovered in our process of a seller engaging is the time it takes to write messaging, the time it takes to do engagement, and most of our sellers were actually practicing cold calling with 100 prospects. And if you listen to the first 8 calls that they had that they actually spoke to someone live, every one of those calls were handled differently.
Yes.
So they're practicing live on prospects. So one of the things that we saw in terms of, I'm a big believer that a fool with a tool is still a fool. So in order for you to be able to excel in your skills at LinkedIn prospecting, at video prospecting, at email messaging, or cold calling, right? In order for you to be able to excel there, you have to actually have training. And then once you take that training, now you have developed the skill, and then you need the tool or technology to help you scale each of those individual activities.
Bingo.
That's exactly what we did with Fly Message. We took our training program, which was centered all around prospecting, and then we brought in Fly Message to be able to append those skills that we taught. For example, you'll love this, Trygve. In having trained well over 100,000 sellers, we ran a study about 3 years ago, and we discovered that 80% of our sellers were not posting on LinkedIn or commenting on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Hold on a second. We had a 97% NPS score, 97% NPS score, meaning out of thousands of students who went through our training program, they said it was single-handedly the best thing that they've ever experienced.
By the by, normally this is a time when I interrupt a guest and say, explain what NPS is, but this is season 4, and this is all about speed and selling. So if you don't know, you need to stop the recording, go look that up, and then come back. Please continue, Mario.
Net Promoter Score. Basically, It says how good was the program, the product, the service, whatever it might be. 97% is unheard of in the training industry, first off. And so I was confused. And I thought, how could we have a 97% satisfaction rate, but only 20% of our sellers were actually doing what we told them to do? Okay, either they lied to us or we missed something. Good news is we went back and we started doing our research with our market, and we discovered that they didn't lie to us at all. We actually did have a very high satisfaction rate of 97%. But what we missed was the following. Number one, if I taught somebody to write how to engage through commenting on LinkedIn, the problem that it took too long and they didn't know what to write. Example, let's say I'm selling to you, Trygve. I go to your LinkedIn profile. I then click on see all posts. I then look at all of your posts and or comments, and I begin to look at how do I actually gain your attention. Subliminally, in my mind, something says, you know what? I probably shouldn't just go like the last 20 things that he posted. I probably shouldn't go like the last 20 comments that he made. That's weird. And that actually doesn't get the attention that I want, the right attention that I want. So then I say, okay, I'm going to pick a post. I pick a post, I click comment, and I stare at a white comment screen. Okay, now what do I say? So 2 problems that existed that we found. Number one, it took too long. On average, it took 6 to 12 minutes per comment to engage with our prospect.
Are you kidding? 6 to 12 minutes?
6 to 12 minutes, because now I had to open up your LinkedIn profile, wait for that to load. Next, I had to go and click see all posts. Next, I had to read 2, 3, or 4 posts to be able to see which one am I going to write a comment on. Then I pick one, click comment, and then I stare at a white comment screen and I start typing. And I start typing something, and then I edit it, and then I re-edit it, and then I hit comment and go. And in most cases, I forgot to tag the individual. 6 to 12 minutes. So the process was those that did it, 20%, it took 6 to 12 minutes. Those that weren't doing it is because of what I just described. It took too long and they didn't know what to say. So I was like, oh my God, I could solve this problem with AI. I could actually take our entire social selling training program, model it into our AI prompts, and I can pre-build the right things that I want people saying. A curious, which asks a question to solicit engagement, an optimistic post, or a thoughtful post or comment. So that's what we did. And we took a 6 to 12 minute process down to less than 45 seconds. Actually, it takes 3 seconds to write the comment. And then the other 30 to 40, 42 seconds is to sit there and mention and edit to my like and taste. And then we layered on top of that Mario Martinez's persona. So now we have the ability on Fly Message to be able to write in Mario's friendly voice, Mario's assertive voice, Mario's transportation voice, Mario's fintech voice, or you put in the whatever it is you want. So now we have that ability. So going from 6 to 12 minutes down to a matter of seconds increased the productivity of our reps and started creating more engagement. So what would someone do when they saw a long comment and they asked a question? Usually the author replied. Now that you had an actual conversation going, now it led to the opportunity to be able to go ahead and actually send a connection request and get it accepted because there was a reason. I reached out to you. Hey, John, it was so great to communicate on this particular post. Insert a link. Now that we had a conversation, I'd love to be able to connect with you as well. Great. Usually there's some acceptable format that someone says, yes, I know this person at least somewhat. Or the individual author of that post went back and clicked on the person's profile. Who asked this insightful question? Ah, interesting. So that was the first problem that we discovered. The next problem that we discovered was reps were writing a bunch of this content, Trygve, and they would write whatever it is they would write, and they would send it, and roughly about 4 to 6% of all messages written had some sort of grammatical punctuation error.
Bingo. And when you are, this is a huge deal because, and this is a good lesson for anybody, because in the sales process, the way it was described to me, which I fully believe, is people are looking for every single reason under the sun to not buy from you. And your job as a salesperson is to exhaust every single one of those not buying reasons. Spelling and grammatical errors, details matter. Sorry, off my soapbox, keep going.
So you nailed it. And so if a seller is using AI correctly, AI will give you the baseline. Let's say it gets you 70% of the way there. The rest of it is you're customizing to the individual. Maybe it's 95% of the way there. And now you're actually customizing it to be able to match your like and tasting. Phenomenal. However, one of the things that we found was that there were so many mistakes. And so what a seller had to do was they had to go buy a different tool in order to be able to solve that problem. And so I was sitting there one day and I was like, gosh, I write so much content, not for just blogs, not for training content, but actually messaging. Why do I have to have multiple tools? If Fly Message cares about the message to create engagement, then why not care about the message, including punctuation and grammar? And so we released the AI grammar checker within Fly Message to solve that particular problem, no matter where you go online. Yeah. And so that's the ability to be able to engage. But then I said, there was one more problem that we had. No matter what I wrote, whether I had AI write it or I personalized it or customized it, I was always sitting there saying, God, is there a better way to say this? Is there a different way to say this? And so I had another tool that I utilized, and that was called a paragraph rewriter or sentence rewriter. And it was like, I used it probably 200 times a day, and it would automatically come alive. It would automatically look at my content. It would automatically see what it is that I have, and it would identify what I need to change and suggested changes. And for the most part, 8 out of 10 suggestions I would accept and say, yeah, that's a better way to say it. It's shorter, it's cleaner, it's crisper, whatever the case might be. We noticed that this was a problem. And as a direct result, I said, look, if Fly Message cares about from an AI perspective, could I build another assistant that actually works inside of the workflow? So whatever you change, we're going to check the grammar. That's the AI grammar assistant. Phenomenal. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to customize this and write it. And then I want to highlight it and say, hey, AI, is there a better way to say what I'm saying? No word whiskers, no extra commas, those types of things. And if Fly Message cared about the message, about creating engagement, the perfect message for the perfect engagement, then what it should be able to do is give me feedback and help me rewrite some of the sentences or paragraphs. And Trygve, that's exactly what we just released this past week, was what's called our paragraph rewriter. highlight anything. You can improve the writing, humanize the writing, make it shorter, make it longer. You can translate it in 40 different languages. You can change the tone of a particular sentence where you want it to pop. Maybe you want it to be humorous and funny. Maybe you want it to be firm and assertive, whatever the case might be. And so now you started thinking about that. So that's all around the messaging, that's around LinkedIn engagement. And then I said one more level. What I began to notice is that the voicemails that I heard from reps, as they called, from even within the same company sometimes, they were always different. There was never a consistency. And those voicemails that I did watch, because we do coaching on cold calling, that I did see, what I began to notice is that these sales reps, business owners, would make a call and it would be different every single time. So there was no rhyme or reason based upon you being the pessimist, you being the friendly, you being the optimist on the other side. So I was like, man, if we teach everything on our training all about how to prospect, how to engage through email messaging, LinkedIn, and video, and I give you all these tools to be able to help you write this messaging, whether it be on LinkedIn, a comment, a post, rewrite anything you're writing, do your grammar checking, even have text expansion, which quickly builds out content for you, predefined templates. I was like, I need something to scale cold calling. So we went out and acquired a company's technology and brought that into the fold. And by next week, we should be releasing what's called AI role play and sales role play and coaching, which is the ability for you to build out your own ICP on your computer. And then we give you 15 different types of personalities based upon that ICP that you can go practice with. And then you can get AI to rank you, to tell you how you performed. Did you meet the objective? It has a live conversation with you. You get the transcript back and you get all the analytics of how you performed, ultimately improving your cold calling skills. And that is a full technology solution combined with services. That's one package that we now deliver. And I talked all about that. I don't want to make this a commercial. I want to talk about the problems and the outcomes that people are seeing.
I think that you're absolutely right. I think the problem with AI on the whole is that it's like I think of it like an episode of Yellowstone with all the horses in the paddock. Is everybody's coming out with this new AI, and hey, get this new AI, get this, and Claude and Gemini and Rufus and all of these different, and they all have clever names. But so I have this little paddock of AI robots that really want to do stuff for me, but I don't understand what the outcome is. And I think the real game changer for Fly Message, and yes, I knew it was Fly Message, but I say Fly MSG because it's supposed to help me speed up, is that you're focused on the outcomes. If you use this tool, here's what gets better. You get better, you get faster, you get smarter with your cold calling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And essentially, if you think about our real focus for a seller is to really help them to write better, to pitch better, and to win more deals, right? That's really the focus of the outcome inside there. I think when we think about AI and we think about how to utilize that, no, it's not replacing the seller, but yes, it should make you a heck of a lot sharper and it should make you a heck of a lot better at your job. In addition, what you should be able to use AI for is to help you speed up the process by which you were using it. And that's where, for Fly Message, people asking like, oh my God, Mario, it feels like it's a Swiss Army knife. Yes, it is. But you don't have to think about when to use the Swiss Army knife.
Bingo.
Because the Swiss Army knife is already embedded into all of your workflows. When you click comment, Fly Message. When you highlight something, Fly Message. When you write anything, we show up the grammar corrections. And when you get into a role play, we're going to prompt you to be able to accelerate your skills. So with all these areas, you've got to use AI, whether it's on the prospecting side or whether it's on the hello to close side. You've got to use AI to level you up and to increase the speed by which you were doing something in an inefficient manner, and to give you the knowledge that you need to be able to accelerate the deal. That's where I think AI can fall into play in its best format.
So there is light at the end of the tunnel for sellers in 2025 and 2026. It's just a question of how quickly you can get better.
How quickly you can get better, and how quickly you understand that the name of the game is really about hyper-personalization, right? Hyper-personalization is the name of the game right now, and omni-channel approach. There's still a lot of companies who are cold calling only. That's the focus. There are still a lot of companies who are doing only outbound email. It's not just that. And you also have to get a little smarter about certain things. For example, a lot of our enterprise customers have asked us, hey, is there a way that you can, with all of our organic traffic, help us see who these anonymous visitors are, and then help us to be able to start messaging them? The answer is yes. And if your marketing team isn't doing that today, shame on them. There's plenty of tools that allow you to be able to identify who these anonymous visitors are in the US and in some parts of international, and then begin to message them. You pull them in, and then you enrich that data. And now you start messaging them, engaging with them, and saying, hey, Trygve, I saw that you were on our sales prospecting article. Interestingly enough, it looks like you got about 2/3 of the way down and you stopped at, right? Perhaps you didn't finish the article. I'm going to give that article to you. Or perhaps it wasn't what you were looking for, and you were looking for, how can I help my sellers too? Either way, I'd love to understand, what were you looking for and how can I help?
There's a fine line there, because if you don't do that well and you don't have a certain confidence and understanding of who you are as a person, that comes off way creepy.
Maybe not, but it's no less creepy than the fact that all of a sudden you're on TikTok or Instagram and you're being served up an ad for Colgate because you were
Yep.
just on Amazon Prime looking at Colgate. So I think we're well past that. We all recognize that now. When I go to my computer and I look at anything, or I go to my phone and I look at anything, somewhere, somehow, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or Google is going to serve me up some ad for something that I just looked at and something I just watched. But
Well, I
if I
think
can actually be relevant, meaning I need to know that you, Trygve, are actually a sales leader. If you were not a sales leader and you came to us for some, I don't know, you landed on us. Oh, actually, I know, I'll tell you a real life example. Here we go. Somehow, some way, Google started passing over traffic for
okay.
XXX videos. And we started seeing this in our Google traffic. And I was like, what are we being pulled in for XXX videos? Now, for those of you listening in, maybe you're international, XXX is pornography. And we
So
were
did
getting
you
pulled in.
actually reach the level where you are so good at your job that somebody did a porn spoof of you?
So no, what happened
Oh,
was,
okay.
is our article on video for sales was being served up by Google for XXX videos for sale.
Wow.
XXX videos for sale. And so as men or women were looking for X-rated videos for sale, our video for sales content was being pulled up, and I thought, that's interesting. So I asked the team, how do you stop that? And we were out of ideas. But what we were doing is we were actually identifying visitors that were on our website. It was coming up, and we started messaging those individuals. Now, this one was a little interesting. Hey, Trygve, I saw that you were looking for videos, our videos selling on our video for sales article. When you know darning good that you were looking for XXX videos for sale.
Oh, goodness.
Talk about embarrassing, right? Not for us, but for the individual. So that's an example of, is it the right buyer? Is it the right persona? Is it the right message? Is it the right content that they're seeking out? And you have to be on top of these things as a marketing team, or as a sales enablement or revenue enablement team. You have to be on top of these things. And I think that's where it gets fishy. But that's a really good example of, and by the way, that lasted for its solid 6 months. And then basically Google was like, oh, I don't think that's XXX videos for sale. So all that traffic went away, which I'm glad. I didn't want it there anyways. That's not the purpose of our website at all. But it was a funny, actually, discussion. And actually, this is the first time I told that story on any podcast, by the way.
Amazing. Amazing.
So anyways, to your point, you need to know your audience. You need to know whether or not that particular buyer is a buyer that you want and or would like to target. Yeah. So the ICP, and is it the ICP that I want to target? So maybe a large company, maybe your ICP, a CRO of a big Fortune 500, but maybe that's not your target company, is the CRO of a Fortune 500. So I think that's really important. And honestly, if people are creeped out by the fact someone knows where they're traversing, then they wouldn't have hit accept cookies when they landed on that website.
See, I think the answer is that both things can be true at the same time. Yes, it is creepy, but the technology is out there and your competitors are taking advantage of it. So do you want to be upset that it's creepy, or do you want to get better?
That, and here's another one for you. This one, actually, I think this is the first time I'm talking about it. I think this is well within our repository here of things that we're going to launch, and we'll be the first to market on this one. But imagine this. Imagine if you can look at all of your competitors' social media handles, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, whoever, and you could see who's liking, commenting, reposting any of those social media posts off of your company handle or off of any employee who shares that particular post.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could actually target those individuals and run them through a filter, which is your ICP filter. That's your first AI bot right there, your ICP filter. And then it spits out of 100 people, maybe it spits out 20 of them that are actually your ICP. Now you enrich them and you begin targeting them because you know that they're engaged with your competitors' content. Now that is pretty sexy. And guess what? AI is there. You can now put on sniffers that are actually watching the public social media post. This is all publicly available. And you can begin looking at stealing your competitors' ICPs and who's engaging with their content and begin messaging campaigns behind that. That's the power of AI. And that's the power of speed. Because before, to do that, we would have to sit there for hours to be able to analyze that data. Now I can analyze data and look at content and posts and interactions and at warp speed with AI because it can do it quicker, faster, better.
We're going to have to save that for the next episode, but thank you. I always learn and I always feel better about myself anytime I get the opportunity to hang out with you. Mario, where can people find Fly Message online?
FlyMSG.io, FlyMSG.
See, it is MSG.
Yeah, it is MSG. Ooh. So the abbreviation, Fly Message, actually FlyMessage.io will get you to the same spot as well. But Fly MSG, I'm all about brevity. I'm all about shortening things. I'm all about speed and productivity. So I didn't want to create a product that had the full word message. I wanted it to be short, brief, and increase productivity by typing MSG. So flymsg.io, it does lead you to Ingreso. Many people wonder, who is Ingreso in relation to Fly Message? It's just like Meta and Facebook. That's all we are. We're just a holding company for several different lines of businesses. One of them is our technology. One of them is our training for salespeople. And then the newest endeavor will be centered around the AI agency, building out some really cool things like I just talked about a second ago. But flymsg.io. And then, of course, if you are going to connect with me, do not send me a LinkedIn connection request message without telling me that you heard me on the Dial It In podcast with Trygve Olsen. You need to send it as a hyper-personalized. Otherwise, I will just simply ignore the connection request.
And if my name is spelled incorrectly, you are not going to get a response from him.
That one, it took me a little while to be able to spell your name correctly. So
yeah, but we've been
you'll get the get out of jail free card on that one. At least tell me that you heard me on the Dial It In podcast and tell me something that
you and I have been friends for a long time, so you finally got it down. So Mario, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and definitely check out Fly Message if you get the opportunity. So this has been season 4, episode 2 of Dial It In, produced by Andy Witowski and Nicole Fairclough. Dave is not here today, but he'll be back next time. And with apologies to Tony Kornheiser, we will also try to do better the next time.